Okay, so you want chickens, not two hens in the backyard. A real operation. Rows of coops, thousands of birds, eggs rolling down a belt every single morning like clockwork. You've seen the TikToks. Backyard chicken keepers, flexing $8 eggs and calling it beating inflation. You think, why not scale that up? Turn a hobby into a business. Turn eggs into income. Here's the thing. Nobody tells you before you sink your savings into a hen house. This isn't a farm. It's a bet. And the house doesn't always lose. Let's start small, because most people do. A single backyard hen costs about $8 to $15 up front, plus feed. She'll eat roughly $3 to $4 worth of feed a month. Do the math over a year, and you've spent somewhere around $40 to $95 keeping one bird alive and laying. In return, she gives you around 200 to 250 eggs a year. Valued at store prices, that's maybe $130 to $160 worth of eggs. Sounds like profit, right? Not so fast. One financial site tracked a real small-scale egg farmer. His actual cost, per dozen, once you count everything, $3.02. He sells his eggs for $5 a dozen. That's not a business. That's barely a tip jar. And that's before a single hen gets sick. Now let's scale up, because this is where the real money and the real risk lives. A small commercial poultry operation runs $5,000 to $30,000 just to get off the ground. Go medium scale, with a proper hatchery and bulk production, you're looking at $75,000. A serious 1,000 bird free-range setup, before land costs, $25,000 to $75,000 in construction alone, plus another $10,000 to $20,000 just sitting in the bank to cover feed and payroll before your first sale. Feed. Let's talk about feed for a second, because it's the silent killer here. Industry experts say feed eats up 60 to 80% of your total operating costs. Some models put it even higher, over 100% of projected revenue in a bad year. Read that again. You could spend more on chicken feed than you make selling the eggs it produces. That's not a business plan. That's a treadmill. All right. Quick pause here. If this kind of real talk business breakdown is your thing, smash that subscribe button right now. Seriously. This channel exists to show you the numbers nobody puts in the brochure. Let's keep going. So who actually survives in this business? Turns out, it's not one type of owner. It's four. Type 1, the hobbyist. 4 to 6 birds in the backyard. Doesn't track spreadsheets. Doesn't care about ROI. Just wants fresher eggs and a reason to talk to chickens in the morning. Break even, if they're lucky. Usually not. Type 2, the side hustler. A few hundred birds. Sells at farmers markets. Charges premium for pasture-raised and farm fresh. Makes decent cash until feed prices spike, and suddenly that farmer's market table is barely covering gas money. Type 3, the commercial scaler. Thousands of birds. Automated feeders. Automated waterers. Real payroll. Real infrastructure. Real debt. This is the one betting the whole house on volume and efficiency. Type 4, and this is the one that changes everything. The volatility player. Big operation, deep pockets, doesn't panic when prices crash. Actually profits most when disaster strikes everyone else. Wait, what? Yeah, let's talk about that. Because the egg market isn't like other markets. It doesn't move slow. It doesn't creep up 1% or 2% a year. It swings like a wrecking ball. In January 2025, a dozen eggs hit $4.95 nationally. Brutal. Consumers were furious. Grocery stores had purchase limits. Some stores ran out completely. 1 year later, January 2026, wholesale egg prices had crashed to just 33 cents a dozen, lowest since 2019. Read those two numbers again. $4.95 down to basically nothing in 12 months. What causes a swing that violent? 3 letters, H5N1. Avian flu doesn't nibble at your flock. It wipes it out. Overnight. In late 2024 and early 2025 alone, over 20 million egg-laying hens died from bird flu in a single quarter. Nationally, the outbreak has killed over 150 million birds since 2022. Here's the part that should make your stomach drop if you're thinking about getting into this. When bird flu hits your farm, there's no slow decline, no gradual depreciation like a car losing value in a garage. Your entire flock, thousands of birds, your entire income stream, gets culled, sometimes within days. Government order, no negotiation. One Delaware farmer, Mike Puglisi, lost 80% of his laying flock to avian flu back in 2022. In his own words, the whole ordeal was traumatic. Chickens he'd raised his whole life, destroyed, because that's the only way to stop the virus from spreading further. It took his family nearly a year just to restock the hen houses. A year, with zero income from eggs, while the mortgage on that $75,000 infrastructure investment kept coming due regardless. That's the nightmare scenario. Now here's the twist nobody expects. For some farms, bird flu isn't a disaster, it's a payday. When smaller producers get wiped out, supply crashes, prices spike, and the big operations still standing? They cash in. Cal-Maine Foods, the largest egg producer in the country, posted quarterly revenue of $954.7 million during one of the worst outbreak periods, blowing past what analysts even expected. While backyard hobbyists were losing entire flocks and small farms were shutting down, the biggest player in the room was printing record profits. Same virus, same industry, complete opposite outcomes, depending entirely on your scale and your timing. That's not a coincidence. That's the whole business model, laid bare. Owning hens was never really about the eggs. It's about who can survive the crash and who gets crushed by it. Here's your reality check before you build that first coop. The USDA has paid out over $1.25 billion to farmers since 2022, just to compensate for birds destroyed by disease outbreaks. That program exists because the risk is that real, that constant, and that catastrophic. If the government has a standing billion-dollar fund just to soften the blow, ask yourself what that tells you about the odds you're signing up for. And even in the good years, when there's no outbreak, margins are razor thin. Feed alone can eat your entire profit. Fuel, labor, and utility costs keep climbing whether egg prices do or not. Producers themselves are on record saying that even when grocery store prices look great for consumers, their own margins are getting squeezed harder than ever behind the scenes. So, here's the real formula, if you're actually serious about this. Don't romanticize it. Don't go in picturing a peaceful little farm with a rooster crowing at sunrise. Go in picturing an insurance calculation. What's your biosecurity plan? What's your cash reserve if your whole flock gets cold tomorrow? Can you survive 12 months with zero income while you restock? Because that's not a hypothetical. That's Tuesday, in this industry. If you can't answer those questions with real numbers, not vibes, don't buy the chickens yet. Start smaller than you want to. Track every dollar, feed to eggs, like it's a real P&L, because it is one. And build a cash cushion for the outbreak you hope never comes. Because somewhere, on some farm, it's already happening right now. That's the real economics of owning a hen farm. It was never about the eggs. It was always about who's still standing when the flu finally comes knocking. If this broke it down for you the way you needed, hit like, drop a comment telling me which type of owner you'd actually be, and subscribe for the next one. We're just getting started.